I can discuss some of the psychological aspects of the case.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, what is your verdict?
Trying to frame me, huh?
I have a duty to perform.
Perhaps I was talking when I should have been listening.
Well, in time, would you say you ought to be able to wrap this up in 24 hours?
Oh, it's late.
I jumped in to listen to it.
Hello. Shanda. How's everyone doing? Thank you again for joining us. So let's go where we left off last time. So basically last time, for anyone who wasn't watching, the podcast cut off because of internet problems. But it was about 3 hours in and around midnight, so maybe it's a good thing because it was a bit late. Everyone was getting tired. For anyone who missed it, it's up on YouTube. And again, please go follow YouTube and Facebook especially, because they're new pages which I haven't promoted and I'm starting to promote them. So whoever missed the first one, feel free to go there and leave any questions you have in the comments. So basically we discussed sponsorships, government help, and initiatives in general. Basically anyone in the esports scene especially had not much idea of what was going around the scenes, or going on around the scenes, and some people felt like they were in the dark, some things were questionable. The main shock, I would say, about what we spoke about last time was the amounts of funds and the way they were allocated, basically. There were millions in funds, and not a lot of people benefit from them. It seems like they only give importance, from what we're seeing, to the larger scale events rather than the small ones. And we're talking about basically how that's where MESA should come in, or want to come in, to help grow the basically young local talent, because without a young local talent you have a dead esports scene, which is what we're seeing in a lot of cases at the moment. So there are other things, like, let me actually get Mick, so if he wants to chime in, he can just chime in straight away. So hello, Mick.
Hi.
So basically what I'm saying is I'm giving a bit of a a recap of last time. Sorry, the sore throat today. So basically you can put it however you want. Even if things are done perfectly by the book, and if you go to check, there's full transparency. Things look odd, things look fishy. Some people point at corruption, some people point at nepotism, I think. So even if everything is nice and clear and nothing's wrong's happening, obviously I think everyone can agree, and you can't blame anyone for thinking this. Things look a bit fishy, or maybe not so clear, and maybe some people would like some clarity on certain things. Me personally, I kept on looking at the numbers after we spoke on the podcast, and I keep on seeing that there was about 300k every year which could have gone to education, and we didn't get any help in education, and we had a really good program. So obviously I'm a bit bitter, I'm a bit hurt, I'm a bit confused on what to trust and not, because you see the numbers, you see things went well, but at the same time it's like they didn't go well. They want to create jobs in these sectors, at the same time the small businesses aren't getting the help maybe they need. And no one was doing anything on education too at the time, so it's not like there was too much of it happening or it was competition or anything like that. So it still puzzles me that I don't know what the hell happened till today. We spent a long time working on things like the educational part of esports to raise people into esports. And the more I think about the time I spent, the more I understand why I walked away. And I will probably be walking away from MCL also, because it's very disheartening. So I'll probably leave it to Zelian, even though I don't know what Zelian will do, because a lot of people in MCL feel kind of the same way, very disheartened by the way things are. And they don't see much of a future unless there is certain help or a certain push. I love games, I love esports, I love working in this industry. I don't want people to think that the podcast is some sort of a witch hunt for certain people, because there are things which we do benefit from. One of the things is, for example, this is not esports, it's gaming. For example, I'm very proud to work with a company that produces games. They're situated in Malta, they're not a Maltese company. I'm 100% sure that the government had a lot to do with at least an initiative to get them here. So it's giving those types of opportunities. So I don't know if maybe these jobs are also included. Would you say they are? So it's not just esports, so it's gaming, not just esports, right?
So the government's strategy and the government's intention to have 1% of Malta's GDP covered by this sector includes esports, but also video game development. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So that does change things, because if you give them good reasons to come here, open up in Malta, you can hire people. My question again, which falls back to what we spoke about last time, is what a pity, because, for example, what I learned isn't something I learned at university, you know what I mean? It's something I learned through time, through working in this industry, through making mistakes. So you need to teach people for them to be good for these jobs. So even if we get these jobs here, which is a really good thing, and I hope they keep on doing it, we still need trained people, we still need people with experience, which is what we're lacking right now, which is why I get even more pissed off about the whole esports education thing. But yes, it does change things, because obviously, yes, you can create a lot more jobs, because as you know, the gaming industry, as in video game industry, is a big money maker. The esports industry, on the other hand, is always up and downs, and right now it's in a big down. So I would say that creating games could be a much bigger moneymaker. I don't know if I'm wrong.
To be fair, the gaming industry right now is also in a big slump is not the word, but a downward trend in terms of there's a lot of layoffs in the gaming industry and in tech in general. So that's also part of the reality.
But the numbers are different, you know what I mean? And even the support, video
the
games in general.
The numbers are different, but the reality is that also countries out there trying to attract video game companies are also very different. Not many countries are trying to attract esports business. I mean, the obvious one is Saudi Arabia. But all of the countries are trying to attract video game business. If you go to Gamescom, for example, you see every single country has a massive booth trying to attract video game companies to relocate there, providing benefits for free offices or discounted office space, tax breaks and so on, to try and get video game companies to move to their country. I mean, you go to Gamescom, as I said, kind of like you see the UK stand or the French stand or the German stand. They're massive. They put a lot of resources to try and attract video game companies to their countries. We're trying to compete with them with obviously much less resources. But to be fair, I do have to say that the government has been quite successful in attracting a few video game companies. Maybe it's not like iGaming, but at least there's still a decent amount, Dorado being one of them, but also quite a few others for games.
It will never be like iGaming, because that's betting. No. That's a different story. You can't compete with that. No. So yes. So I wanted to mention that, because after we spoke last time, I really thought about it. I said, I wonder if these jobs are also involved, because if these jobs are involved, obviously you're doubling, if not tripling, the amount of jobs you can create. So that's a very good thing, and props to I don't know which is Gaming Malta definitely has a lot to that. So props to them for sure. And whoever is involved in trying to bring these companies, because I think at least that will give us the opportunity to have people to work in these modern jobs and these new jobs, which might be related to things you love, even if the game isn't something. Not everyone's going to land a job in Counter-Strike, you know what I mean? Not everyone's going to land a job in WoW, but it's still a really cool thing being part of a company like that. So that is at least something that I took very positively from last time, thinking, okay, now we need ESL to start getting more people to work with them. Do you know how long ESL will be in Malta for?
The contract was for 3 years, as was publicly announced, and the 3 years are up.
Okay, so they might not resign or something like that. So,
yeah.
All right. So fingers crossed.
There was an announcement by ESL that it's going to be in Europe. Yeah.
All right. So at least from that end, I took something very positive. From the other end, obviously, I told you my disappointments. So let's go on to part 2 of the discussion. Last time we got cut off and we spoke a bit about MCL, and then we went straight into the new law called the Integrity in Multi-Sports Act, right, Mick? And then
multi-sports, yeah. Multi-sports.
Multi-sports, not esports. All right, sorry. And everything went bonkers. So should we start with that? Would you like to give us a bit of info? Because I know nothing about this. I just...
Yeah, okay.
Go ahead.
So, as you guys know, different countries regulate sports in different ways. In Malta, we have sports legislation that, for example, criminalizes match fixing. There's also a separate law regarding registration of sports activities, where kind of associations and clubs and so on get to register. With back in the day, it was an entity called Sport Malta that was registering sports entities, and you could apply also for funding and other benefits. There are quite a lot of benefits related to sports. I mean, just this week, for example, entities registered with Sport Malta, the rugby union, for example, received I think three football pitches, something like that, so that they could practice their sport, and a clubhouse. LocksTALK FC also received a piece of land, and so on and so forth. So basically, there are quite a lot of government benefits going to sports entities. And to maybe start from scratch, it was always kind of something on in my brain that's kind of like, although I don't really care whether esports is sports or sport, or is considered sports or not sports in terms of classification or naming. And realistically, if you ask me personally, I don't think there should be the same promotion of esports as there is promotion of certain types of sport, simply because sport has a big benefit that is physical education and physical activity. So I don't want to confuse the two, especially in a country with very high obesity rates. I do think there needs to be kind of like a distinction. However, then when I look at the practical realities of esports and what other similar activities get, like for example chess, billiards, darts, stuff like that, I say that kind of like the only way forward is to be the only way forward for esports is to be recognized as sports. So yes, I think that's important. And since 2019, I applied for Versio to be registered as a sports club with Sports Malta. After a lot of toing and froing, ultimately they replied that basically they don't consider esports to be sports. There were a lot of excuses relating to this, such as, for example, that the European Union does not recognize esports as sports, which is true, but also the European Union does not recognize any sports as sports or not sports. Also, the fact that, for example, Sport Malta already had with it things like, for example, arms collectors, remote control car operators, remote control airplane operators, clubs of the sort, chess, stuff like that, that are very clearly, in the same category as esports at the very least. So why couldn't we be considered as in the same vein as chess? And mind you, the legal definition, I don't want to bore you with legalities, but the legal definition of sports included, for example, mental activities. So in my view, esports should have been there, and it should be at least on the same level as chess, for example. Yes, anyway, we applied. We weren't outright rejected because they knew they had no legal standing to reject us. But basically, they put spokes in our wheels, and every time, kind of like they tell us, no, you need to have an association to be able to register. Before you register a club, you need an association. We create an association, then they tell us, oh, wait, no. Apart from an association, the association needs to be connected to an international federation. We get connected to an international federation, and then they say, no, but you need 40 registered members. Okay. We get 40 registered members. They say, wait, those two don't count, so you don't meet the criteria. That sort of relationship. So that lasted a very long while. So anyway, for the past few years, it has been kind of like a target of ours to be recognized as sports. We had 3 separate meetings with the Minister of Sports to try and get this over the line, but there was no real kind of like acceptance of that fact. And just so you guys know, kind of like we actually wrote down what the benefits are for esports to be recognized as sports. So on our website, there's a section, in the download section, there's something called the manifesto, and there you can see basically the benefits, the things that people in esports would be benefiting from if it was considered sports. Things like, for example, leave to compete abroad. Things like if you get sponsorships, you'd be able to the entity providing sponsorships would be able to deduct certain expenses, a lower tax rates, and so on and so forth. Quite a lot of access to certain funding that as esports we don't have. Quite a lot of benefits. So anyway, that has been a struggle. And this is where the law that you mentioned comes in, the Integrity in Multi-Sports Act. So cutting a long story short, in a few months ago, maybe 4 months ago, something like that, one of our members contacts us, says, listen, I am being denied the ability to create a new company in Malta because I'm esports. So effectively, it became impossible to create an esports business in Malta, and the reason was this new law, the Integrity Act.
Can you explain like what stopped them? Why this law stops them?
Yeah. So this new law basically says that if any person is creating a company relating to sports, doing anything related to sports, including creating a sports school or a sports club or anything related to sports, needs to have a registration with this new authority. This new authority is called AIMS, the Authority for Integrity in Multi-Sports, right? And this basically took over the functions of Sport Malta when it came to registration of sports entities. This is the same Sports Malta that denied us from registering as sports, right? So so basically this law, before you establish a company, before you create a company or a non-profit organization, you need to be registered with the second authority. So kind of like when you're creating a company, you're registered with 2 different government entities, not just with one. Mind you, just a side note, if you're registering a non-profit organization, there's a third entity that you need to be registered with. So it's effectively, there's a lot of duplication of registrations and forms and quite frankly speaking, bullshit that you need to fill out. And effectively, this company was in a situation where AIMS had not registered an esports entity because they had, in their previous capacity as sport model, they had refused it. At the same time, they couldn't accept an esports company to be registered because there was no esports association registered with them. So it created a chicken and egg situation, a catch-22 situation that basically no one could get out of. Mind you, the way that this law is written, it's not just a question of registration. There's a whole new level of obligations and requirements that come with it when you decide to when someone is registered with this new entity called AIMS, including you have to give them free access to your premises, free, access to all of your accounts. They can even technically make accounts publicly available, even though you're a private company. It's essentially a law that is written for sports entities that are almost primarily funded by government. Which in Malta, in most cases, it's mostly private companies doing sports activities, not associations. The only two associations, there's three associations, non-profit associations in Malta relating to esports, and those are Project Eversio, the Malta Sports Association, and Velocity Esports. Those are the three non-profit associations in Malta, to my knowledge. And maybe for those, it makes sense to make their accounts publicly available and so on. But for private companies, it's a different ball game, right? Giving access to your private premises 24/7 to government officials and all this kind of stuff is over and above. No, Arco, Malta MGN is not a registered non-profit organization. So that was the situation. So we ended up in this corner where basically, if you try to create a new company in Malta, you were unable to, pretty much. And this is the same country that wants to promote esports for business in general. But at the same time, you can't create a company. We tried asking for meetings with the appropriate authorities. Finally, after a couple of months, we got them. And after a very, very, very heated discussion, they basically told us, listen, we don't care about esports. We can specify that esports is not sports, so that you fall outside of this law. And we're like, listen, we want to be recognized as sports. But if you're going to do that, first of all, consult with us. Speak to us. Speak to the community and let them know that this is coming so that we can prepare for it. And secondly, make sure that the law makes sense. Because unfortunately, there were so many errors, so many problems with the law, and the authorities themselves breaching their own law, that it creates a ridiculous situation, right? One of the requirements, for example, one of the key requirements of the new law is that for any sports entity to receive funding, it must be registered with AIMS. But none of the esports companies in Malta are registered with AIMS. And they were still receiving government funding. Then there was another funny thing where if you're a foreign company, then actually you bypass all the requirements, which is also absolutely crazy. Honestly, it's a ridiculous situation that would take us hours and hours and hours to discuss it all. Yeah, it was mind-boggling. Ultimately, though, with some miracle, the end outcome was that they said, okay, propose a law about esports for us, and we'll see about it. We'll see whether we'll push it for it to be published in Malta, basically. So we drafted this law. We're still internally consulting about it. To basically make esports sports, but at the same time slightly reducing some of the requirements that absolutely make no sense. For example, the requirement that an esports facility needs to be licensed, and at any point in time, if it doesn't meet the criteria, which by the way the criteria do not exist, if you don't meet the criteria, then the government can come and close your facility. So imagine something like Esports Plaza or World Pro Racing. Someone can come and just shut your doors with little or no reason, right? Without publishing requirements beforehand, without anything. And we're kind of being asked, listen, you have to agree with this or not. Yes, but I can only agree with something if you give me the full requirements. Another thing, for example, that I think will make a lot of people mad is that there still is this requirement that if you So in Malta, if you fix a match, that's a criminal offense. You can go to jail for that, right? And even if you know about someone who fixed a match and you don't report it, you also can go to jail for that if you don't report yourself knowing that a match is fixed. And just so you know, match fixing doesn't necessarily involve betting. Even if two parties agree to throw a match for no specific reason, it can still lead to a criminal conviction. But in this case, this new law also extends that criminal liability also to doping. So if you're caught doping, if you're caught using an illicit substance, a substance that is not approved by the World Anti-Doping Agency, WADA, then you'd also be found criminally liable. And the list of WADA substances that are prohibited include anything from weed and cocaine to asthma medication to medication used by trans individuals for whatever.
Are they all extreme cases or they're common cases, Emma?
What do you mean?
Because if it's medicine, for example, used for transitions and stuff like that, it's a point something % of the population. But if it's asthma, it's a very big percentage. So
I mean, in Malta, it's weed, right? Like if you take the percentage of young people who.
But still, if you play football in Malta, I'm pretty sure you can't be. You have to be clean at least.
You need to.
Sometime before the game, or I don't think you can be smoking weed like the day before the game. I think you have to leave a week at least or something.
But there's also a difference, and a clear difference between a football game that you play between your friends and a league match, right? Because there is a structured wait, give me a second. There's a structured competition in football. You know what is a league match, you know what is a match between friends. Mm-hmm. In esports, we don't have that.
Wait, what do you mean? Why don't we have that?
What is an official competition?
Because you're saying competition. So, for example, if there's a level academy tournament, they have to get tested.
Yes.
But those can fall under friendlies. They can fall under. They're not.
But the law doesn't recognize friendlies or not friendlies.
Yeah, but in friendlies you never get tested. Whenever you play 5-a-side,
but legally you can get tested. As in, that's the problem. That there is no clear distinction between what is a friendly and what is serious competition.
No,
right?
But wait. If let's say I organize a tournament for the gaming community of Malta, football. We're going to Infetti, we have 5 teams, and we're going to play a tournament against each other. It's not any registered entity creating football. We're just doing it as an event for us. They can come and test us, and if we get positive, we can't play the game.
With this new law, Keith, basically, this is how ridiculous it is. There's no distinction whether you're organizing something on a professional level or a non-professional level. Let's take someone like Level Academy, right? Mm-hmm. If you're organizing your streamer showdown that you used to organize, mm-hmm. right? Versus you're organizing the Tekken City Mondays, yes. right? Which was like a circuit. Mm-hmm. And with the circuit, you know that you're qualifying for like the player who plays first, you know, who was winning 500 euros, something like that, I think, mm-hmm. you know. That right now there is no kind of like this distinction between something that is friendly and something that is actually seriously competitive. So it results in a crazy situation where, yes, technically speaking, if you're organizing a friendly thing, so even the fact that you as Level Academy to organize an esports tournament in the first place have to be registered with this entity, right? Whether you're organizing a friendly or a non-friendly, they can visit your premises at any point and force the people participating in your competition or what have you to get tested. And if they find them positive for anything, they can go to jail. Now, our point as the Esports Association is, listen, there needs to be a structure to this.
Go to jail, not disqualified for some...
No. You can go to jail. You can go to jail.
Well, that goes half
That
of
is
the
that
population.
is the situation that we're dealing with right now. Now, full disclosure, we're hearing rumors that Parliament is now changing this, right? But currently, it's law. Currently, that's what the law says. And I think after the law was enacted, people realized how outrageous it is, and the politicians themselves, who clearly don't even read their own laws, realize how outrageous this is, and are reverting it back.
Okay.
But that's the current situation. And imagine a situation where I said, yes, put us under this new association, under this new authority, under AIMS. And then there's an esports tournament at PlayCon. They contest people and they find 50% of the competitors positive for weed.
And
they
they
march
go,
off everyone to
and they're
jail.
all in court.
Yeah, fun times, right?
But they can't do that at a party. They
No,
can't just walk into a party
because this is
full of
sports.
ease
It's
and
different.
DMA and just say we're testing you because you'll violate rights. But they can't do that in any tournament. Can they do that to a five-a-side football tournament, for example? 'Cause it's the same law then, right?
I don't think so, because it depends. I think who is organizing the five-a-side tournament. Because if it's the MFA organizing it, then probably
No,
yes.
yes, if the MFA, but let's say the LocksTALK podcast does a football tournament for his viewers.
From their perspective, they want to avoid a situation where LocksTALK podcast is organizing a sports event without LocksTALK podcast being registered with them. That's the impression.
So
that
more monopoly, basically.
Yes, control.
Alright.
Government
Perfect.
control.
How's that? And I'm going to assume that the people in government who follow on esports and those companies aren't standing up for the situation to change, or they're
Our members are all against it.
of MESA.
Yes.
But what
yes.
about ministers and or they're the ones who wrote the law?
They're the ones who approved the law.
Oh, okay, they approved it. All right.
It's up to us to convince them that, listen, there's something wrong here. And again, this goes back to, this is currently what MESA's main role is, right?
To not let this shit happen.
So when people say, we don't hear anything about MESA, we have no idea what MESA is doing. It's true, because most of what we're doing currently is behind the scenes. And yeah, except for our members, people don't really know what's going on, but these things will affect our community as a whole.
Yes, especially if people get arrested. No, but for example, what about people like Gaming Malta? Like, could they stand up for you to be like the line between
Gaming
you and the
Malta-
minister to tell them like, yo guys, this is insane?
Gaming Malta helped us to get in touch with AIMS, the entity that is
Okay,
organizing
good,
it.
because it's much easier.
But wait, look. Let's go to the juicy details, shall we?
Okay.
The CEO of the authority that is enforcing this law is a board member of Gaming Malta.
Oh, they should write a Netflix series about Malta, man. It would do better than House of Cards. The cobwebs and the pipe and the egg. Okay, so some of the people who are helping you. So there are people
No.
who
Gaming
are
Malta helped us.
helping you talk to the same people who are helping you because they pass the laws.
Yeah. Gaming. I have to say that Ivan Filetti from Gaming Malta, he's the guy who managed to help us and get us, speak to the appropriate people to, put some good sense into this matter.
Yeah, it's from my end. If I ever got help from anyone, it was from Ivan. It was the only person who ever sat down and listened. I still question a lot of things, but he's the only person who ever helped us. Like everyone else, just
he is a bit of a one-man army.
And I don't think by choice, though.
No. Because
from anyone I've ever tried to speak to or spoke to, whether it was with you when we met the Prime Minister, whether it was meeting other ministers, whether it was meeting ministers at MESA, whether it was getting inaugurations by ministers, whether it was meetings, that no one ever responded with anything useful for the community or for education. No, everyone did when it came to tournaments.
Let me answer a question from Arco from
Yes,
this.
yes, go ahead.
How does doping law apply for online tourneys? That's a very good question, Arco. In fact, we spoke to this authority about it, and we were kind of like telling them, listen, this is how esports works. And we did say kind of like, we explained how like an ESL tournament works. Then we told them kind of that, a tournament held in Malta, for example, CCT, the one that Eden was organizing, it was mostly online. It was organized from Malta, but the games were being played online. There were a team in Russia, team in Germany, or whatever. And then we also said, listen, but this also is happening in sports. Kind of like, for example, e-cycling competitions, e-darts competitions. These can also happen online. Chess competitions. Some of the biggest chess tournaments nowadays are on chess.com. And basically, when we said this, they put their heads in their hands, basically started rethinking their whole careers. That was the reaction. So no one knows, Arco.
A lot of mysteries in our.
Realistically, serious tournaments should happen offline.
Yeah, I agree. I think like people got comfortable with COVID also, but I 100% agree for a million reasons, even just Lego and latency. Everything should happen offline. And even for the sake of bringing people to arenas, don't compare it to football because it's the most popular thing on the planet, but any other sport, when it's televised, it's nice, but if you start without having pay-per-views or anything like that, people start actually going to the arena and people start paying at the arena, and it helps. I want to get into stuff like that, in fact. Look, I don't know if there is anything that we as a community could do to, I know this sounds like so much confusion and people who don't exactly understand what's going on, not working in line with other people who might know what's going on, and everything's a whole mess. Hopefully it gets changed. My suggestion, which is a really simple one, is you just need to have subcategories. So you have sports, and you have the physical sports, and then you have the mental sports, then you have the mix between both. And you just have categories, and each category different laws can apply to different categories. So, like the drug thing, fair enough. I think if you're playing in any profession or anything that's represented by anything decent, testing is okay. Obviously testing is okay, like they do with a lot of other sports. So a lot of sports in the world, you, for example, can't get caught smoking marijuana, for example, after 2 weeks before your event. Let's say if you're a fighter, it's like a week before your event or 2 days, because it's a reasonable, like, you don't want someone to be high in the ring, whether because they'll be slow or whether it's because it's an advantage because of better thinking, because people use it for both ways. So you get it. You want people tested and not to be under any influence. Obviously, if you're doing things which are mental, they do them in most sports like football, basketball, then esports also, I think they should be banned. I think it should be a level playing field for everyone. I think it should be taken care of straight away. So maybe I kind of agree with it, because not to the extreme, obviously, that you mentioned, but you don't want it to get to the point where, like, for example, Armstrong, he was first, he gets tested, and then apparently like all the first 33 spots were all positive. The person who's now first was like number 34 or number 19, I'm not sure, but something ridiculous like that. Like everyone was positive for something. So you don't want to let a sport get to that point. So it's nice that people get tested, I guess, but not to these extremes. So that's just crazy. I don't know if there is anything that the community could do to help, to maybe push for categories to happen, or maybe push to get the voice I don't know if maybe you should do a petition saying right now the government has this law and we can get everyone to sign it. So they say, oh, look, the people of the sexual sport are all telling us no. I don't know if there could be any help from our end like that. If there could, tell us and we'll try push it on every stream to try get it out there.
I mean, realistically, and what I've said before applies. Kind of like, all we need is people to support what we're doing at this stage, because unfortunately, right now we're made of 28 members, and when the government is presented by an entity that has 28 members, that's the total amount of members that are in MESA, in the Multi-Sport Association, then it's weak, right? As a lobby group, we are weak.
Yes. Okay.
To answer the question from Addict Tekken, can't MESA have its own funding? Why do we need Gaming Malta in the first place? So, first of all, Gaming Malta is the entity that convinced government for there to be esports funds in the first place. Without Gaming Malta, there would be no esports funds. There would be no funds for esports. That's the first thing. The second thing is that of course we're looking into other types of funding, but ultimately funding comes from government. And there's always a central control point. Now, to be fair, I think we have to say that we're very blessed to have Gaming Malta, in the sense that most other countries, first of all, don't have a dedicated esports fund. And most countries don't care about esports. We're lucky to have a government entity whose role involves esports and who is willing to fight for us at government level, to push for what we need at government level. So that's not something that can ever be discounted in that way. The reality that the government somehow is going to bypass Gaming Malta and give us the funds doesn't really exist because of this. So there's no situation where you can get money directly from government, because government really it's too far ahead. So you need an entity like Gaming Malta that pushes for the interests of our sector with the government. It doesn't work that way, basically. What can I do as a streamer content creator to help esports in Malta? It won't be a big impact, but I'm curious to see what can be done. I mean, Taikai, as I said, like generally, like the only thing right now that I can think of is basically support what we do. There's nothing really that major that realistically can be done.
I have a few questions regarding what Taika is saying also, which you could go into a bit of detail. Regarding the whole thing of Gaming Malta, the same like you, like I don't think the issue is because it's Gaming Malta. Like you're saying, they're the people who, if it wasn't for them, there wouldn't be any care for esports. I think it's the whole thing we were talking about yesterday. Somewhere something is going wrong and things aren't being distributed fairly. Whether it's intentional, whether it's incompetence, whether it's confusion, whether it's too many people, I don't know. I don't know what it could be, but somewhere something is going wrong. I don't think, like I said, I don't think just putting the blame on something like Gaming Malta would be fair, because like I said, Ivan's the only person who helped us. So as frustrated as I could be about certain things, I'm also happy about other things. But from what we spoke about last time, somewhere along the line, something clearly is going wrong. I don't want to get stuck too much on that, because basically last time we spoke about a lot of whether the government and certain sponsorships are being fair or unfair, but I think that is half of the problem. I think the other half is the multi-player mentality. It's always wanting, but really not contributing, or if they contribute, it's always for a certain price. And that doesn't mean that there's something wrong by getting paid for your skills. That's what I'm referring to. Basically I see it a lot, not just in esports. That's I don't know if it's a local thing, but in general, players, they start on the right track, then maybe they get blinded by money or personal gain, or they lose perspective of the goal. I don't know what it is, but it's a lot of build the scenes, and then no one really helps or participates. Or when they get a chance to, they don't use the money to actually help like they're supposed to. I want to give two examples of, I can't call them perfect, but I'm going to give two examples of Maltese communities which I really, really believed in. Not believed in, sorry. You have Tekken, amazing community. Their scene died completely. COVID hit, it became unheard of in Malta. Level Academy started helping them. They just gave them the tools and a structure. It kept on going. Velocity are exactly the same way. They had their scene, they hit a roadblock during COVID, we helped them a bit, or I'd like to think to help them also on production and on broadcast and stuff like that, not just initiatives. But at the end of the day, what they both have in common is this drive, this initiative. You know what I mean? As in they have a really good, healthy community, and a competitive one also. So it's not perfect, like I said. You're going to see all kinds of fighting and screaming. It's at the end of the day like everything else. That's why I'm saying I'm not trying to push this as it's perfect, so everyone who looks at them thinks that these people don't have their issues. But it's all about what they do. They're constantly trying to push, and they manage. So they still do it now. After they got help from us, they kept on doing it on their own because they have a healthy community, not because necessarily they're getting funds or anything like that. Back in the day, Mick, we did it ourselves. There was a healthy community and things kept on going on because people just organized stuff to the point where you had Tuesday nights PUBGs and these, and people used to just join and have fun playing with each other. There wasn't that much rivalry, and basically, like I'm saying, you see people like Tekken and Velocity community, they keep on going strong. And they built the help they have. They didn't get it out of nothing. There are a lot of communities that we helped build up, but then as soon as we stopped doing something, everything died out because they didn't decide we must continue doing this. We can't have everyone always help us. Basically, how can MESA in any way help to change this bloody mentality of not trying to build your own community? Always waiting for someone else to tell you there is a game. Do you want to play? And then you fucking register or sign up one day before to make sure you see all the other teams. There is no nice, yeah, Shbaz, there's that game on that day. I'm gonna make sure I don't keep anything on that day. See who's playing with me and we'll have fun. What the hell went wrong? How can I know it's like a psychological thing or maybe a generational thing, but is there something MESA can do? I don't know, public talks. I really don't know. Is there something they can do to get the mentality of people that, listen, you can have fun and compete. You can have communities and they're really important. Why are this just Tekken and Velocity? Who, again, granted, it's a small amount of people. I didn't put MCL in there because it's me and like with Zillion, because it's the same thing also. We had started without any funds, we got some funds, continued without them, then we'll go into it a bit later. But what can happen, Mick? What do you think can happen? Is there something MESA can do to influence people this way? Magic.
First of all, my departure point is that I'm a realist, right? And I'm quite well acquainted with also other communities in other countries. The reality is esports is not that big, and people who are going to be successful in esports are very, very extremely few, right? And thirdly, it doesn't take a community for a local to be successful in esports. To give two examples, there's no local Valorant community, there's no local Overwatch community, but two of the best players in Malta who are succeeding currently in international esports are in those two respective scenes.
What do you mean by successful though, Mick? As in
professional players getting paid.
But you can have esports without professional players, you know what I mean? You can have a lot of
but agreed. But at this stage I'm saying kind of like just because there's no community doesn't mean there's no activity. Because although in Valorant there's no community, it would be extremely remiss for us not to support the only local player that is not part of a local community anymore, but he's still a Maltese, semi-Maltese guy who made it as a professional player. So Same thing with Overwatch. So speaking about this community thing, the thing is that first of all, I don't want to sound harsh, but in the first place, it's not easy to try to revive a dead horse. You're flogging a dead horse, trying to revive it, and in some cases, it just won't happen because the scene is too small. Back in the day, I remember kind of emailing ESL Italy to try and allow our Counter-Strike team to play in ESL Italy, because obviously there weren't enough teams in Malta to actually have a Maltese league. So I said, listen, let's try and get into another domestic league, which is ESL Italy. Ironically, ESL Italy was shut down as well because there's not enough teams in Italy to have a Counter-Strike league. There's not enough teams in the Benelux region to have a Counter-Strike league. All of their leagues, not professional leagues, mind you. All right, they had a €1,000 prize pool or a €2,500 prize pool. But this is the Benelux, You have 10 million people in Belgium, 17 million people in Netherlands, and another, 800,000 in Luxembourg. They can't have a community. You think we're going to have a community just of Maltese people? It's bloody tough.
But how don't they have a community, Mick? You don't tell me that there aren't that many players playing Counter-Strike or Valorant or League. Come on.
You remember my team, my Counter-Strike team was mostly Belgians, right? Belgians. I had one Maltese person and 3 Belgians and 1 Dutch, and anyway, it was always changing. But we were part of the Belgian community. We attended the Belgian Championship, the offline Belgian Championships. I think 3 or 4 times, right? They were stopped. And this was ESL. ESL stopped. And then there was another one, which was a competition sponsored by a gambling company, and that also stopped because of lack of activity.
Right,
and we're talking about the Benelux, guys. We're talking about Italy. All right, maybe in Spain it works, maybe in France it works. Germany, ESL stopped all domestic activities in Germany.
How strange.
So it's not easy. Like if you're, unfortunately. The reality is that esports is not as big as we want it to be. Not many people are passionate about playing, games like Counter-Strike, League of Legends that take an enormous amount of sacrifice and time to get somewhere with. It's not easy. So it's as Inter says, it's not for everyone. So trying to make it for everyone it just doesn't work. Sometimes, it works out really well, like how Call of Duty was in 2006 or 7 or 8, or how League of Legends was maybe in 2010 in Malta. They were massive. There were 20 teams competing. But nowadays, it's a smaller community. In League of Legends, at least there is a community. And the only reason there is a community is because a couple of individuals decided to try and keep pushing for it to happen. Rocket League, like until a year ago, if you organized a tournament, you would get 12 teams. Right now, if you organize a Rocket League event in Malta, you get none. Now, no amount of money and no amount of events potentially can. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible to revive these things, but realistically, it's very hard to try and do it. And let's remember, Level Academy, the reason why, for example, they stopped doing Fortnite tournaments was because in 2021, you were getting 130 people signing up. In 2022, you were getting 30 people signing up. I was there because obviously I had players in the scene and no one was signing up.
Yep, a bunch of players had just quit it at one go. I don't know what had happened.
Yeah.
Like a Summer Plus, we didn't do tournaments throughout the summer because summer is quite shitty for tournaments, and just never picked up again. Yeah. We thought maybe the kids grew, I don't know, but nope, never picked up again. A bunch of people lost interest in it. So, never go to
no, because this was my preface kind of saying, like, listen, I'm trying to be realistic. I can't expect the impossible from the local community. There's limitations. I do think there's a lot of things we can do to try and make it better. And I think, for example, what's happening with the Kazin Discord channel, that was really needed. What's happening on League of Malta Discord channel, Discord server, that's super good. We need LANs. We need community events. Now, is it MESA's responsibility, and should it be MESA's responsibility to organize these? The departure point, and this is what I said last time, was that it wasn't, and primarily because back then there were a lot of entities doing these sort of things. Like, let's take PlayCon, right? PlayCon is a massive event. You have tournaments for so many different games. There are tournaments for League of Legends, tournaments for Rocket League. Even they struggle with signups. So if you have something like PlayCon going on, and we're still struggling by, I know there's other things that need to be done, like LANs, for example. Just to give you an impression, one of our suggestions to Gaming Malta was to keep some money aside for things like community events, including traditional LAN events. So that was something that we recommended to them. But we need to be realistic with our expectations of what the local community can do. Tekken and Sim Racing are two very good examples, because it doesn't take realistically too much to have a community on those games, because they're single player games. But League of Legends and Counter-Strike, where also like a really good Counter-Strike player or a really good League of Legends, the skill ceiling for those games is so ridiculously high that even creating a team of similarly skilled players is almost it's really difficult. I mean, I'm really happy right now. We have, I think, for the first time in a very long time, a fully local team competing in an international League of Legends event. For Counter-Strike, I'm going to be honest with you, we failed to do it. We could never do it. I've been trying to do that for 6-7 years. Getting a fully local team to compete internationally never worked. No, we couldn't get 5 good people in Malta to sit together and compete internationally. That's the reality. So, there's a lot of things we can do. There's a lot of things that I would like to do. Our biggest challenge is resources, and when I say resources, I don't mean only money, but also human resources, people that help us, help us collectively. Like, what I want to say is, MESA is not me. And I also said this last time. This is MESA's democratic. Next election, I might not be president. There might be a completely different executive committee. So this is nothing to do about me. So the point of MESA is that the community in general comes together, pulls in their collective efforts to try and create something. So this is why, like, one of the things that I don't like is people tell me, like, yeah, but how can I help? Like, it's not really possible to help. You have to come in kind of with your own ideas and execute them, because that's the way kind of the 2-3 people that are currently active in MESA actually do things, right? We go in, we have ideas. Like, for example, I had the idea of publishing this annual data report, and I started doing it. There's no one else helping me to do it. I'm doing it. Today I posted an article on our page, by the way, for those of you who are maybe interested in reading it. That article we wrote, I think around 2 or 3 months ago. We sent it to Times of Malta. We chased them for them to publish it on their newspaper. Ultimately, we gave up, and I said, fuck it, let me just post it on our website. But it was a personal initiative. Like, these personal initiatives, people saying, Isma, let me organize, a get-together, a barbecue event for the esports gaming and streaming community. That sort of thing. That doesn't even have to be MESA that does it either. No, that's why what Kazin is doing is really good. But again, what we really need to focus on things that only we can do, like speaking to government about the stupid laws, stuff like that,
Speaking about these things, what can people like Kazin, these communities do? This is more a question to Michele than MESA. Can groups like the Kazin apply for anything, not esports or games related, entertainment related, to get funds to organize events, so maybe funds can come through somewhere else and lands can happen through the community, because obviously these things are very expensive, make it very difficult for any, like, we can't as Kazin pool money together to do something like that. So is there any entertainment funds that groups can go to, small communities, to get some small help? I don't know how we will have to register or something like that, but maybe it's not something for the podcast, but maybe you could guide some people, including me, in the right direction. Because maybe gaming community, like, one of my questions I have for you later is like that clearly the issue is always going to be the power you have with your words. So the more people you have, the bigger voice you have. Joining up the esports community and the gaming community, I know they're completely different things, and I completely understand you can't take all this under your belt. So there has to be something where either there'll be a subdivision of MESA which takes care of these things, or we have to have the initiative of maybe registering something ourselves, so maybe we can apply for things yearly and help out with the community. And we'll make sure we put a whole board like we did with MCL, because the reason why I wanted to put 5 people and not just put myself in charge was I wanted to make sure everything is fair and everything's for the community, not for my personal gain or what I believe should happen. It's a group always taking a decision. We chose the right people. At first we had the interested people, then it got watered down to the people who actually worked. So it could be something nice we could do together to get help organize stuff, which at the same time, at the end of the day, if you're competing with games, it becomes esports, so it would fall under different help. But then when it comes to what's happening in general, it's things I want to talk about. Like last time, if you look at the VOD, it cut off with me mentioning what happened with MCL. So what you're saying is what MCL did. It was, I felt like CS again. I spoke to Zerian. I noticed that there are like these 10-man games happening. After like 3 weeks of this happening, I said like it would be a waste not to just jump on it now. So I told Zerian, like, we had the MPL for the Malta Pro League as a joke, like, and I said, why don't you actually do a Malta Counter-Strike League? And we started brainstorming. Then, like I said, with the right people, eventually we ran this without any government help, and it was really fun. It was really cool. It could have been done something we did once a year. You know what I mean? It would have been enough for the community. So what I am thinking you're saying to everyone as advice is, there is no tick these boxes and now you helped us. It's just be creative, come up with your own shit. Going out last time like we did just in MD now, near Rabat, was a thing where we just met as a community, had some post-its, spoke games. These things help build communities. If it wasn't for Kazin, I probably wouldn't be doing the podcast or the game show now. I was going to wait up to next year to start doing them. But everyone was saying like the game show, and I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'll start doing it slowly. So this shit motivates people. It's nice to meet up and have these things. So I think that's the best advice Mick can give, and that I had given a lot to the academy. Just do your own thing with your community. Let me jump on to the next question, because this is the completely other side of the spectrum now, especially after what we've been talking about. Why should the government even bother helping players if there's such a lack of interest? If you're a business and someone comes to ask for a sponsor and they say, what's your activity like? And your activity, shit, I don't really want to sponsor you. So can we fault the government for not wanting to? I know that these are funds to help things grow, but those are community events that are organized through companies. So that's a company trying to do something. This is someone dedicating a certain amount of time. When it comes to like what you said, leave some money on the side. I know it's very helpful. I know it will grow communities for sure. But when you see it from a business point of view, what motivates the government, unless it's we want to help this to grow, so we'll go into a loss for now? Because if there isn't this type of, let me put it this way. We struggle to get people to simply like other people's pages in this country for some reason when it comes to esports. I'm going to speak for myself, for example. My viewership ratio compared to how many people just like a post is ridiculous. Like, people have a problem with simply clicking on something. I don't know what it is. Now, I want to compare it to something which I really consider similar, which I am in, the local metal scene. Metal is a very underground, it's a niche type of music, so you have a very small crowd of people who follow it. Esports is not underground like metal, but it's still sort of the same thing. There is a stigma around it. A really small amount of people follow it. So I'm not saying metal is doing well in Malta or anything like that, because it always struggles because of people. But there is something where most of the people understand. If there isn't any support, this thing will all crumble. Whether it's support from the people or from a venue to provide places for bands to play. So you have a lot of people. I feel guilty that I'm not doing it that much since I had a kid, because I don't have time to go out that much. But we used to do it all the time before, where you don't like the music that's being played on the night and you go, let's go anyway. And I'm not saying press like on their page. I mean, you have to stay getting ready, you have to stay driving there, you have to stay looking for parking, you have a minimum of £10 out, €10 to go in. So it's much more than just simply leaving someone's stream on or liking them. You know what I mean? Like, there's something between the veterans and the people who really care about it, who understand. If we're not here to give that little change, if the venue isn't there to not charge too much, the whole thing crumbles, because it's such a small scene. It's a house of cards and everyone's supporting each other. As soon as someone stops supporting, the whole entire thing crumbles. Do you blame governments in general for not wanting to put sponsorships and spend money on players? Do you blame Playcon for not wanting to? Because this is a criticism I had of Playcon throughout the years. Why aren't you promoting esports properly? Why are we putting 10k on Fortnite rather than putting it on games which are actually esports? But then I can argue against myself, to be fair, and that's the question. If there are people who don't give a shit about esports and don't really compete, why should Playcon spend their money on these things when they could spend them to get parents there with kids and they will grow their business? Because at the end of the day, they're a business. Do you blame them? Do you blame the government for not wanting to support them? Because when you see it from the other end, this is why I told you the podcast is really split in two and we need to do a part 2, because the fucking player problem and the community problem is half of the fucking problem. So do you blame the government? Do you blame Playcon? Do you blame people for not putting maybe the allocated funds properly for esports, and instead it's going more for activity and people and good photos and the place being packed?
It's not a yes or no question, in the sense that government does give money to help esports, a lot of money. Generally speaking, I believe that it's not always spent wisely, or maybe there's a bit of a lack of understanding of how of what would actually help the community. I do think government in general does help any scene, any activity that is cultural, sporting, or whatever that needs help. Let's take, for example, Casini Tal Banda, right? Not the Discord channel, actual band clubs. You know, the government just spent millions, like, for example, on the traditional buildings of traditional casini, to buy them out from their landlords to give them to the casini. For example, you know, one casino of enough, I don't know, Hazzabuch could cost 5 million euros. The government pays 5 million euros, buys it for the casino, and gives it for the casino. There's no business in it for the government. It's a cultural activity. It keeps up the Maltese character, and so on. Right? Same thing with football. Football, for Christ's sake, is the biggest, most popular activity in Malta. It's not profitable without government. If government wasn't there to give land to the football clubs, to give land to the MFA, to help them build the football stadiums, to help with everything, to help with a legal framework that incentivizes athletes, and so on and so forth. They sponsor the national team. They sponsor the football competition. I mean, if some activities like this, like music, for example, need government help in order for them to be sustained. Without it, it just doesn't work. So if you ask me, kind of like, is it the role of government? Well, frankly, if the government does it for the Association for Remote Controlled Planes, they gave them a small airfield. Why can't they do it for esports? You know, potato. You know, same difference. They should. I think there is an argument to make that they should, even though it's not It's not particularly profitable because that's what they do generally with other sectors, right? I mean, for example, the hunters, right? They gave them Mizip. They gave Mizip to the hunters so that the hunters can practice their hobby. Does it give anything back to the country?
No.
No. So, I mean,
So it's the duty of the government to help people, but it's also the duty of the people to give the government a reason to look at them, basically. So unless we
Yes.
make noise, there's not going to be help. And I do
Exactly.
agree with you. It cannot be that it's just GMR, Level Academy, Eden Esports. You know what I mean? It can't be just a few people just trying to make noise. It needs to be the general public showing
No,
that
and-
there is a demand for it.
And there's a very big difference. And in for example, what PlayCon potentially would want and what we would want, there's a difference, because ultimately PlayCon or Level Academy or other esports companies are a business. So they are primarily going to look for things that work, that ultimately make them a profitable business, or at least be able to make money. For example, let's take PlayCon. PlayCon realized that what's it called? Jesus Christ. When people wear costumes of comic book characters and whatever. Help me here.
Comic Con.
No, not Comic Con. The activity.
Cosplay.
Cosplay, yeah. They realize that cosplay is extremely popular, right? They realize that some tabletop games are really popular. So they organize them within PlayCon. It has nothing to do with video games. It has nothing to do with esports, right? But it works, right? It gets attention. It gets traction. Why shouldn't PlayCon do that? There's no reason for them not to do that, especially if it works. So you can't really blame them for doing something that is not video game related.
No, I don't blame them for it. The same way I don't blame them when other big conventions abroad bring musicians to entertain with music. What the only complaint I have is the timing of it. Because it's true, other conventions would get a big band to play and everyone has a show at night, but for it to have a certain limelight time and certain bands and certain games don't, I think it's unfair if your goal is to help grow the community. If your goal is to create a successful event, then yes, at the prime time, throw what fills up the most seats. When are you going to sell most? When are you going to sell most at the bar, food? When are people going to see your sponsors the most? So I agree when it comes from a business perspective, but if your goal is community, help the community, if you're getting funds because you want to help build the community, then even though they get better viewership than any tournament we have in Malta, 100%, because cosplay is really big. I think timing is the only thing I had an issue, which is the only thing I'd criticize, because I do get it. I completely get it. You're going to sell a lot. But you don't agree that maybe, like, I didn't like that Counter-Strike was on day one at 10 o'clock in the morning. It was obvious no one's going to be there. So if you're trying to promote esports, when you had Fortnite, it was at quite like a whole day event sort of thing. So you could do things.
But PlayCon has no obligation to help the community.
No, exactly. That's what I mean. So that's what I meant. Like, it depends what the intention is. If the intention is entertainment through video games, then cosplay, just put a rule that it has to be video games, and then you're fine. You're entertaining through video games. You're not doing anything wrong. It's just people would maybe want more for the community, for the local. But no, it's a business at the end of the day. Let me put it this way. I'm a metalhead. Been a metalhead my whole life. I organize things like Battle of the Bands. I don't do it just metal only, because I know I'm so limited. So I open it to any live band. So I would say the same thing as PlayCon. If they're there to make money as a business, then no, you can't restrict yourself to the few people of esports. And then again, I'll tell you, who don't show that much interest and sacrifice a lot of money when at the end of the day your intention is to make money. So it's all about the intention of it. Their intention is to make money, then yeah, they're doing the right thing. Then there's no...
Our point has always been kind of that there needs to be somewhat of a balance, especially if we're talking about public funds, right? If there are public funds available for ESL Pro League, then there should be some funds available for the national team, for people in Malta who are aspiring to. It could be a much smaller percentage of that, But we need to argue in favor that, listen,
They're different
not-
things. They're completely
they're different things. They
things.
reach different audiences.
As
They serve different purposes.
They should probably come from a different budget, sort of thing, Like, I mean,
Yes,
like, for example, ours, as in MESA, like esports and stuff like that. That should come from probably a sports budget, and the entertainment of Games Work should probably come from Gaming Malta, especially after you clarified that these jobs that they're saying they got to create is video games, not just esports. So
That's exactly what we suggested. So what we suggested was that they kind of, if they have a €2 million budget, let's split up into, 80% of it is going to international esports activities like something like ESL. 10% goes to, I don't know, conferences and business conferences, whatever, stuff like that. Then maybe 5% goes to the local community, right? To help out the local sector.
It should be that way because they are different things. So again, the same way education has a different budget, it should be the same thing, because if you're going to organize an expo, you need X amount of money. If you're going to organize tournaments, you need a much smaller amount of money. If you're going to organize a LAN, you need a fraction of that money. So I think there should be more distinctions on what is what when it comes to games and esports and stuff like that. It's a big difference, I think. And another thing, like, I'm going to mention MCL again. So MCL started out of people who wanted to do something with the community. Grow had about 80 people active before we had one sponsor. I worked hard to try get the sponsor, because it is hard, obviously, to convince people to give you money for things like Counter-Strike and something so small. We get it. People got better prize pools. And then less people started showing up. Now, this is normal, that people get bitter towards each other. People take things the wrong way. Some guy might fight with the other and say, fuck it, I'm not playing this way. Some people got sick of the draft system because they were too good. So we expected some drops, but we also expected new people to join. So again, it falls down to, if you see someone manage to get a sponsor, Allah, try help them out so they keep on getting the sponsor, and maybe eventually you can have better events. Because as soon as everyone takes something personally and just butts out of something, it's a small scene, man. We need every man possible, sort of thing. Well, even women in this case, and so we need more women in this scene to help push it more. So again, I'll fall down to that's probably the player's issue. And if people like PlayConWork are doing it as an export for video games, then yes, then you have to do whatever you can to get the money. If you're doing it to help the scene, then it's different. So like you said and proposed, it should be separated, in my opinion. And maybe that way everyone can get to enjoy some events which are impossible to do without funds, because you won't get sponsors for them, as you know.
Yep.
So let's see. Next question. What I was talking about before, in fact. The problem is the voice, basically. You need more people to talk. So what can be done from our end or from MESA's end? Could there be like a subcategory where you won't have to take care of anything of it? You'll have people taking care of it. So
that's the dream.
So, but from all the people you have in the casino, you don't think if MESA had a subcategory, you will find a good 3 or 4 people who will push it? And guarantee you probably motivate MESA to push the same way, because I see a real lot of good push on and activity on Kazin. Is there anything that can be done where we can assign 4 people as a test trial for like a couple of months, see how it goes, and see if it makes a change, see if it gets people? Because at the end of the day, if let's say you put some of us in charge of this and we get people to sign up as members, they're members of MESA also, so it's beneficial to both of us. To you more than it would be to us, because obviously there are a lot more gamers than esports players. Everywhere it's the same way, isn't one is casual, one is competitive.
What we tried to do in the first place actually is to create subcommittees. That's what we've been trying to do for the past 2 years. It didn't work out; they weren't active. Now we're trying to create another subcommittee for like community leaders, or people who, kind of from our perspective, lead certain communities. And yes, definitely. In fact, on Kazin, we did post kind of that. There was a big discussion that we're looking for anyone who wants to volunteer some of their time, and we got, for example, Gecko doing our Twitter. We still don't have people though doing our, for example, Facebook and Instagram. Listen, anyone can contribute their own skills and their own limited time for something, as long as they're motivated to do it.
The way I see it is, this is what I've experienced for the past 5-6 years. People are willing to work, but most people need a leader. Most people need to tell them, this is the direction and this is what I need you to do. And they fucking do a really good job at it. But if you tell them, we wish this happened, it's too overwhelming. Not everyone has the same skills, not everyone has the same experience. So this is why I'm telling you, if there could be something officially put in place. Because if you have 3 good leaders, they will find enough people to push to work on it. And I think it would be easier than esports, because like I'm saying, it's not competitive, it's more about fun. Community game nights can just get people together, and it's fun, you know what I mean? It's a la military compared to...
Yeah, but if there's Kazin organizing something, or if there's LocksTALK organizing something, is there a reason why MESA should be organizing something? Because one of the main concerns that I've always had was that we end up competing with people in the community ourselves as MESA, and that's the last thing that we should be trying to do.
No, but see it this way. Without being disrespectful in any way, you are going to gain from this, not us. Like you're saying, we could have.
But I can fuck over other people though, and that's what I don't want to do.
No,
because if you're organizing the game show, and I say, listen, the game show that LocksTALK is organizing is really good. What if I do the same? What if I get someone who has the skill set to do it, and then I do a game show myself?
But they're doing that at PlayCon.
Yeah, but that's a separate discussion.
I can't stop you. What only thing
I don't agree with it.
The only thing I can tell you is the same thing I would tell Arco and the others. Like, you asked me to do it, I said no, and that's what you're doing. From creative people, I expect something. I'm not gonna say original, because the game show isn't original. I got the ideas from a million other game shows since I was a kid. But more incentives this way, instead of rather doing what someone else did that worked. We need more new things. So.
Yeah.
Yes, I can't stop anyone from doing that, and I won't at the end of the day, because I don't do this as a job. I do it for fun. So I have at the end of the day, I don't have a problem with it happening. I have a problem with, like, Iktar, Yahasra, let's do newer things. Let's do things that involve the streamers more, because the game show is more of a personal thing that gets me views. So you can't stop people from copying you. So,
but that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, I don't want to do something that someone else is doing just because it's going to get me more views or more interest into me. Because if you do that, if I start competing with other people within the community, that is a disaster. Like, that is first of all, it's violating the trust that you have with that other person within the community, which you're meant to be representing.
But why competing, Mikima? Why?
No, because if I do a game show, right, and you're doing a game show,
why would you be doing the game show? You're the esports guy. It's us who will be doing the game show.
Well, yeah, it can be anything. It can be no. In that case, yes. If it's LocksTALK doing it, fair enough. If it's Kazin doing it, fair enough.
What I mean. As in,
I just don't think the esports association should do it.
No,
that's what I'm saying.
Wait, you're not understanding me. I'm not saying that you have a subcommittee which is made out of this, of the Awahda, they start doing the game show and they start doing the football events. No, they will keep in touch with the people who are already doing these things. Yeah. So if, let's say, Arco last time started playing, I always forget what the fucking game goes. It's a really good game and it had a lot of interaction. I really enjoyed playing it. People in the chat were laughing. So he found a good game and he's doing it. I'm not going to say that worked, so now the association will do it. I'll tell Arco, like, when are you doing it? Okay, is this a regular thing? Yes, let's promote the fuck out of it to get people to play on it. Like you were saying, the point is to promote the streamer, not to make MESA big for its own personal gain. It's about making it big so it has a voice to help the people. And that's what I mean. Kazin isn't trying to get big so one day Kazin can get a sponsor and the people working in Kazin can get paid. It's not like MCL and things like that where it's like a tournament. It's community stuff. So if we had to get funds, the funds wouldn't be like, for example, when I got funds from MCL, I wanted to pay the people working. If we had to get funds for something like Kazin, it wouldn't be to pay the people who are working. It would be, how can we use this money to give an event to them, to promote them, to whatever, you know what I mean? So it's always sort of the umbrella that's promoting all the people, not taking their ideas. So MESA won't be promoting, because you won't be organizing a tournament. You'll be telling us, okay, Mala, you're going to do this, let me help you promote it. So
Yes.
if you have a subcommittee like us with you, like some Maltese community, us, I'm saying like any community gaming stuff, it's more probable that they'll have more members than esports players, because the ratio is much bigger. The money will still go to MESA. When MESA have to go talk about numbers, they'll have double the numbers now, and no one in the scene is going to say esports, as in, you're not going to be taking anything from us. And if anything is ever organized, for example, when it comes to esports, obviously, if we're doing a Counter-Strike tournament, if we're doing a Valorant tournament, we have to be decent enough to say, let's involve the MESA logo, because this is what MESA is about, so we give you more of a limelight. I think this is the way it should work for you with the community. I know it's not the community, but I think people should be assigned to take care of the job where you don't have to even think about it, because it's different pages and everything, but they will get members into MESA for you. It would make sense.
We started off with kind of like whenever there's an event of whichever organizer, we promote it on our socials, right? That's what we're doing for the past 2 years. That stopped because I said, listen, I can't do everything that I'm doing and social media.
Exactly.
And we ended up having no social media.
Because you have no
social
one to
media
work on it, you mean, though?
Yes. So social media is the thing that say, listen, you know, if Arco is streaming whatever this game that you mentioned, someone makes a post about it and make sure it's updated, right? Make sure that there's activity once per day, right, or a couple of times a day, that sort of thing, right? But for you to have that sort of thing, you need to have people that are willing to put in the time to say, listen, all right, Mala, I'm doing social media. This guy is doing this guy is doing that. Now, our biggest challenge is to find someone who's dedicated to say, listen, okay, I'm going to take on this responsibility. Even when we assign responsibility to someone, that is not, it happens for a couple of weeks, for a month, and then it stops.
But that's where you have to be, in my opinion, me. And as soon as you see that happening, you have to say sorry. You have to go, because at the end of the day, if you want something,
that's what we did.
Yeah,
that's what we did.
So
we changed the whole board last January.
Yeah,
right?
Good, because if things aren't working, you have to change it, because then it's just going to keep not working. So,
but now we're back at the same point.
Yeah, then get rid of people again. Alright, it's harder for esports because, again, esports and companies. There are a handful of companies and really little amount of esports players. But if we had to have something where we had to find people just on Kazin alone who will be ready to help with posts, I'm quite sure
we did.
It will be easier.
We did that already.
Alright.
We did that already, and Gecko offered.
Exactly.
And he's taking care of our Twitter now.
So exactly. So imagine the Gecko's taking care of that. There are more people who would do this. If we had a subdivision, Gecko could keep on taking care of yours because you need the help. We could have someone on the Kazin side where enough. Maybe I'll be doing socials and posting myself. But together, Mick, you're gonna get a lot more numbers. I think it's your way to go to get a bigger number. So maybe you can make some noise. So Tefret, can someone post the Kazin's Discord? Kazin is a Discord, Tefret, which is filled with a bunch of locals or people involved with locals, and we had something with streamers, one similar to it. Unfortunately, we've had these things before and they died down. That's the important thing, trying to keep it alive. So it's basically a community Discord where we're not only playing games and promoting our streams and stuff like that, we're also organizing events, football events, going out to eat, whatever. So it's sort of trying to keep the community closer, trying to keep better events, and more importantly also trying to do outdoor events, because I do believe that a big part of why all this is lost is the comfort of always being at home when before you went out to meet your friends at LANs. Those things are important. And yes, join for sure, because there'll be a lot of online fun that you can join. I started doing all this again because of motivation of people wanting these things to come back, and when I saw enough people asked for it, I said I'll be stupid not to do it. I have a bit more time now, so it's trying to build up the community, and it's working really well. And some people cross over to esports, like you, for example. Like I used to, but I still have an interest in esports, even though, like I said earlier, right now I'm stepping away because it's pissing me off too much, all these weird things that are happening. But there are two people who cross over, so I think if we can kind of join forces, we can help people become members. It will make sense for them to imagine you have to be a member to join the Cousins extra stuff of Discord. People will pay something stupid like €2 a month, man, and we'll get a lot more members, because I think it would help a lot. But let's not get stuck on the Cousin. But even though I want to discuss how we could possibly help each other, one of my other questions is similar to what you mentioned before about the game show. We have a handful of companies in Malta, and they're all related to esports. Without wanting to, you're going to compete with each other. There are ways of doing it which are normal ways. There are ways of doing it where it's like I'm doing nothing wrong, and then there's blatant copying. So without mentioning names, Level Academy had some of these issues also before, and then we've also had the opposite. Like when GMR were going to do Warzone, they saw we were doing it all the time, and they were actually nice enough to ask us, do you mind if we do a Warzone tournament with some of the guys who are working with you? And it was like, we can never stop you from doing anything, but it was nice that someone asked, listen, we're going to do something you're doing, and we had done the same once, because we wanted to do some things of FIFA. We hadn't done it, but we had actually spoke to them to tell them you don't mind, and it might help bring more players onto your big events. But without wanting to, there is competition. Is there a solution to this? Because at the end of the day, we are competing with each other, no matter how nice someone wants to put it. But at the end of the day, we're such a small island that it makes no sense to compete with each other. Do you think it's something justifiable? Like, is it something like from MESA's point of view? Can MESA step in and say, listen, guys, if I'm just going to say it, if there wasn't Counter-Strike for all these years, and then MCL come along and start doing it, and then you have someone like Esports Plaza, the next day they post a Counter-Strike tournament, and you notice from the rules everything was fucked up and wrong, and you see it and you go, these guys don't know what they're doing, they never did this before, because you can tell it's not going to work. Their tournament would have lasted about 16 hours if they didn't fix it. So it was blatant copying. So I don't care, I'll just say it out loud, I don't give a shit. I know, but at the end of the day, the guy is making his money, so I have no right to tell him anything. But is this something MESA? So what I'm saying is, he did nothing wrong, but obviously from my end, you see it as disrespectful. Because especially since we have no funds, they have funds, and then they go put a bigger prize pool. That also affected MCL a lot. There are lack of players, someone comes along with a big prize pool and takes players for you. But like I said, this is a business trying to make money. So he did absolutely nothing wrong. And from business person to business person, I completely understand him. But there's also a bit of a lack of respect, maybe. Is it something that MESA can do when it goes, like, there are certain rules? You can't just, boom, feed off someone else like that, because esports is hard in Malta. Sorry for putting you in this position, but it's
no. I think you're asking me whether I should be a right way. I'm a right. I lean right or left when it comes to economic policy. Right?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm asking you. No, it's true. It's true. It isn't directly what I'm asking you, because, like I said, he does nothing wrong by doing that. It's a business. If I sell phones and you sell phones, I come tell you what the fuck you're getting iPhone. I have iPhone. It's like, that's the whole point of the capitalist world.
I think that answers the question, though. Realistically, first of all, like a lot of the beef that happens in Malta around esports is because that guy stole this idea from me, and because I've run this community for so long. Now they're taking my players, and so on and so forth.
That's what happens.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, but I think it's a bit of bullshit. Like, if you're really close to your community, first of all, they're not going to fuck off and join another community unless they're really unhappy.
No, not like, fuck
off. You know when I don't like it? I don't like it when there's government funds, and that those government funds are used to take kind of like the community that has been established by one entity for another one, and that's where
Yes.
the level playing field should be there. There should be a level playing field for everyone. Mush, I get government funds, you don't get government funds, so I can take your thing, organize it in a
Because
better way.
that's what happens. In fact, you build
Yes,
a
I do.
community, and it could happen to you. Someone could come along with government funds and open a team up, and he'll fuck up your 17 years of work very easily because he'll have money.
It is what happened. It is what happened already. So
It happened.
Yeah, of course. So,
With
for
who?
example, so in 2019, an Italian company came to Malta. They were sponsored by the government. The first thing that they did was they poached my Call of Duty team. And obviously, they had government money. They had so the government gave money to an Italian esports team.
And
The Italian,
that your
so that these,
players up.
so yeah, and then they poached my players.
So that's what I mean. You're right. If your community leaves, it's one thing. But if you have a community that's used to playing for trophies, and then someone comes along with a lot of money and they play it, and then you do trophies and they really don't find it worth it, it happens. But like I'm saying, that's business at the end of the day. Find your way of giving a bigger prize pool, I guess. Funds or no funds. But is there something MESA can do to actually, since we are a small country, sort of regulate, not give exclusives. The exclusives is never going to work. Like that's a bad idea. You should never have this company only organizes that. But there should be things like, guys, don't clash with the same fucking game a la one weekend after each other, especially if you have different price pools, or work together, call us and tell us, yo, I want to organize this and I have money for a prize pool. You want to do it together? Yes, of course I want to do it together. You're going to give me money. I'm going to give you players. We win. Everyone wins. The players are happy because they actually win money and we have more players. So there could be rules where it's like if they're too close to each other, either work together or have a distance of a month and a half. Could there be rules like that? Because I think it would solve issues and fights.
One of the things that we're working on this year, and we finalized it, we're just consulting internally. From next year, what we're trying to do is create basically what we're calling sanctioning of tournaments. So specific tournaments organized by MESA members would be sanctioned by MESA and would be kind of like given a sort of official status. This within the context that I've already said, that now we're also looking into being officially recognized as a sport by the Authority for the Integrity in Multisports, right? So from next year, we're going to be proposing basically it's a policy about how tournaments can be sanctioned by MESA to be officially recognized as official esports tournaments, basically. And there are rules that have been written around this. For example, things like how clear you need to make your rule set. That if you're offering players equipment, you need to notify players in advance of what equipment they'll be using. Things like, for example, prize pools need to be announced in advance, and if they're not announced in advance, at least the method of calculating them should be announced. That prizes should be paid within, for example, I think we wrote like 3 months within the tournament being won. So after you win the tournament, you don't waste 1 year to get the prize pool. It happened to us, by the way, on multiple occasions. One of them is that we schedule things better with other organizers, not clashing events and so on. So yeah, so this is something that we're quite well into, actually.
All right. So Mick, I don't have any more questions. You answered everything I wanted to ask. I want to give a bit of a recap of what happened, but last time there was one question before going into the players section, which was very funny, and I wanted to ask it, and it suits the end of the podcast. If you had Gaming Malta's and Silvio's powers on esports and had no one controlling you, give us a brief description on how you would run things.
It's a good question. I would start off by dividing my budget based on what my KPIs are, right? If I have KPIs that are attracting esports tourists versus KPIs that to grow the esports industry in Malta, I would divide them according to the importance of my KPI, right? For example, I would say, and realistically, for example, getting esports tours to Malta is much more expensive than other things, than maybe supporting the local ecosystem. But make sure that there is a proper strategy in place of how to distribute the funds in the most equitable way possible, and in the most fair and transparent way possible. For example, I would insist that everyone who receives funds should make it public. Receipt of funds should be against things like invoices, not blanket funds for everything under the sun. And there should be a distinction between commercial activity and activity that needs to be supported because it's commercially unviable. Because this is another example. Let's take music events, right? If I'm organizing a music event and I know it's going to be a massive hit, and like 10,000 people are going to attend, I know that I can sell tickets of that 10,000 euro people event for 50 euros. Don't tell me that you need government sponsorship for that, because the event is already commercially viable on its own. Give the money, give free money, so to speak, to events that to activities also that are not commercially viable, because ultimately that's what the government should be supporting, and that's how it's done in sports. That's one thing. Secondly, any funding done by the government should not work to kind of disturb the ecosystem itself. If I have one game that has a prize pool of 100,000, and then another game that potentially is more popular and has a prize pool of 10 euros, I don't think that makes sense. There needs to be kind of like an assessment at the beginning of the year or towards the end of the year. Listen, this is how we need to distribute funds across different games. And I think there needs to be a view on different levels of support. For example, I don't think only tournament organizers should receive support. I think, speaking egotistically, I think clubs should get that support, because clubs are still doing God's work. Let's put it that way. Are still doing work for the community, and to players themselves, for clearly, because players are the ones. Let's face it. Who doesn't know that Simple is Ukrainian, right? Everyone does. And
they put you on the map.
Not many people might know that Navi is Ukrainian, but everyone knows that Simple is Ukrainian. Yeah. So support your best players. I'm going to be honest here. So, for example, Cupert, and I know he won't mind me saying this, but for example, I propose to government that they should try and naturalize him as a citizen. He's been in Malta for 8 years or whatever or more, most of his life. He went to school in Malta. He's one of the only professional esports players in Malta. Kind of like, why do you do that with table tennis players, but you don't do it with an esports player who is genuinely connected to Malta? He has a Maltese girlfriend. He has Maltese friends. He lived most of his life in Malta. His parents live in Malta.
He also taught Maltese kids, so even education is involved in.
So support across different levels, distinguish by what you want to achieve. If you want to organize a conference, that's one budget. If you want to support tournaments, that's another budget. There's a difference between a local tournament and an international tournament. Don't make sure that there are frequent events, not one big event per year.
That's the biggest one.
But multiple events per year, at least 2 events per competition per year. Make sure that it's not like invite based. Make sure that it's it has an open component, so there's a zero to hero storyline. And mind you, all of this that I'm saying has been put to writing and has been formally proposed.
And was this something that was formally proposed and shut down or ignored, or it's something that currently was proposed and we can hope that? Because I like the fact that the question was asked, because I know it was a comical question, but I'm hoping that people who are actually in charge of these things listen to the answer you just gave, because you're good at what you do. You have a lot of experience. You're also a lawyer, and I think a lot of people should listen to you, because till now, whenever I've spoken to you off camera and we've spoken about certain things on how maybe things could be better, you always had a lot of good takes, and everyone wins. Even what you just mentioned now, like the way you would create less conflict between companies, you'll create more synergy between companies, more people working together, and at the end of the day, the player will always win, because that's the most important thing. And I know that a lot of it, like we said before, is about also gaming and entertainment. It's such a big pity if you have ESL and things like that being promoted here, but the esports scene is dead. It's a pity that you have something as big as PlayCon, and I think there was like one team for Rocket League. Counter-Strike really had to scrape together. As in, this is why you need more teams throughout the year, so when the big event comes, people go. When we had Tekken going, and then Tekken was organized there were people. It's the way it works. You need the small ones throughout the year, so when they do the big ones, they get full. Now, give credit to the small ones, because I'll be honest, like there were annoying times when, again, I'm not giving any shit to GMR Tajvir, but we had the Tekken scene was dead. We had really helped it get up again, and after like a whole year doing it, they had done a really big one at PlayCon, and it was like the scene was strong, and they went to play in it, and it was a pity like that we had no involvement in it. You know what I mean? Because we know behind the scenes we're involved in growing it. So I'm not saying they did something wrong. Times like you personally, you go like this was the big event that like I wish I built up to throughout this whole year of building this, but unfortunately I never had the funds to do something like that. So it would create less of that tension and more working together with what you're saying also. So I hope like Mick for at least minister. Yeah, did you ever think of getting into politics that way? No. Please do.
And no, I never will, and I never will. It's definitely not for me.
And I understand.
I don't give a shit what people think. So.
No. I can imagine what a tough job and an irritating job, and everyone always expecting things from you. So yes. I'm sure it's not the most fun job. Mick, is there anything else regarding MESA or you or Versio or something you'd like to end with or plug or recap on?
No, just if anyone has any other questions in chat, I'm happy to reply to them. But there are maybe some questions that people asked previously, and I can answer.
Go ahead.
I know, for example, like last time, Mihai asked, "Are Furia still in Malta?" As far as I know, yes. I'm just looking at questions that other people asked. But if people have questions, like guys, feel free to ask in chat. Because I wanted this to also be a bit of a Q&A, right? Like people, like Eglos asked, will we ever see national teams for esports titles? First of all, we already have a national esports team. We do. We had it in Counter-Strike. We organized qualifiers for Counter-Strike, and I think for 3 years in total. We had it for Tekken. For Tekken, we did like a national circuit last year. So basically, if there were like 25 Tekken events, we attributed points to each of them based on like total prize pool, how many people attended, and so on and so forth. And then kind of the player with the most points got to go to Romania. No, that's right. Unfortunately, we're not in the Overwatch World Cup. I think that's based on how many players you have in the top 500 that you get invited into the Overwatch World Cup.
How many Overwatch players do we have in Malta?
Professional Overwatch players, as far as I know, one.
And casual players? As in people who, not casual, esports casual. I'm not saying like, let's play a game here and there like I do.
Zero.
There aren't any teams here.
No. Listen, there aren't any teams for any game. There aren't any Maltese teams for Counter-Strike. For League of Legends, there are a couple nowadays, but until recently, they only competed in local events. And Counter-Strike, Now we have our own team. We compete in the SCA, but we only have 3 Maltese people playing there. Yeah.
I think in general, the entire scene of esports is just low in numbers. Like Counter-Strike, like you're saying, we have maybe 1 or 2 teams, maybe, because there is another one, but 1 or 2. Valorant, maybe you have 1. League, there are a couple who still kept on going. Tekken, there are lots of players. FIFA have how many? 10, 12 players in total who actually compete. It's like, so overall, it's just
Or actually compete. Maybe it's more like compete at high level in FIFA. Maybe 4 or 5, I would say.
Oh no, but what I mean is there are like 12 active esports FIFA players, right?
I guess.
You could say the same thing like the teams, the veterans. I'm pretty sure they're not fucking practicing 4 hours a day. You know what I mean? Like, so same thing. Like, all of them overall are really low. That's even more why I think you have to find a way to get the numbers of the gamers, the casual gamers, in with the esports one when it comes to having a voice or having numbers. I would really consider seeing if there is any sub committee there could be to take care of the entertainment events. So obviously the small ones, not like community events. Let's call them community events, because I think if you have people who can lead, you'll see some direction.
Yeah.
You see something growing a bit. I'm sure you get a few more members. And yes, last time I didn't ask you this actually. Are there any live events? Because I know you mentioned you can't compete with other people, but are there any live events that MESA have in mind or wish to do or have thought of doing? Is there anything like, I don't know, I know not tournaments, but sort of gatherings? I don't know, is there anything MESA can organize not to sort of get mixed with other companies?
We did a couple last year. This year, we haven't done them because we had big budget problems this year. We were very much in the red in terms of finances, and we really needed to save money.
Nice.
Now, you tell me kind of, yeah, but some events can make you money. Yeah, probably, but also it takes time and people to organize. And unfortunately, and let me kind of like emphasize on this, it's maximum 2 or 3 people that work directly on MESA and who dedicate like quite a few hours per week. And that stuff of work goes into, for example, opening bank accounts, which we've been trying to do for 6 months.
Oh, okay.
We have a bank account already, but the bank basically had some issues with their license, so we're opening another bank account. That's taking 6 months. Filing taxes, filing all of these reports that we need to send to the authorities for VAT, for income tax, for a lot of administrative stuff takes a long time, and a lot of work goes into that. The writing of the law, the writing of these internal policies that I mentioned, the sanctioning policy. The data reports that are almost done, but we're still chasing people for data. By the way, to answer your question, Arku, about that is like in our data reports, we list highest performing esports players per year. We have the 2023, but so far we on our website there's only 2020 and 2021 reports. 2022 and 2023 are done. But unfortunately, I have some missing data, and if we publish them without that missing data, it looks a bit weird, and we're trying to ask people for that data before we publish them. Also, by the way, we're careful as to how making names of people on our website, because there's data protection implications, Arku. So, like, this is something I do want to also to make really clear. We're not an organization that are just doing this for fun. We're trying to do this officially, properly, everything, fully professional, fully registered. Accounts are fully in line, taxes submitted, proper bank account, proper everything. So there's no place for half measures. It's not simple. Unfortunately, in Malta nowadays, everything comes with bureaucracy. Nothing is as simple as for a bike or and you do something. Everything is complicated, and that's where a lot of man hours go. But we do want to organize events. We do want to organize things. But yes, it takes people, which we don't have. It takes a bit, maybe a bit slightly less money, but we also don't have that. But hopefully we'll get better as time goes by.
You need a creative team. Huh?
Of course.
You really do.
Like if you look at like February, like our socials, we were putting up like 3 posts per day in sometime in February, and like people were liking it and so on. It was really good, and then all of a sudden it stopped.
And everything dies.
Now, realistically, like for example, I had Jan asking me like, can I help? Like Jan already does all of my social media for Eversio, so I'm going to the same person that does everything for free for Eversio, right? Who dedicates a lot of his personal time for Eversio. Now I do that as well, right? I dedicate all of my personal time to MESA and to Eversio. But it's still the same fucking 3 people
exactly.
doing the same thing, guys. People, like, it's good that you expect things out of others, but realize that in the local esports community, the people who work for the benefit of esports without getting money back is very small. It's less than a handful. That's the reality, right? Yes, Tefrite Gecko is taking care of Twitter, but to put you in perspective, kind of what we were doing in February was we had like a graphic designer putting like images, putting like a proper caption and so on. Like currently, we're just putting a link and Twitter comments, which is still not as good as we'd like it to be. Nothing that Gecko is not delivering on. By the way, is volunteering for everything. So at least there's someone helping out. But we want to make it better in the future. We want to make like a proper posts and so on. But yeah, it takes a lot of effort, and we all have full-time jobs. And mind you, every person who currently is working MESA is 30 plus. All of us have full-time jobs. All of us have families. It's not like we're spending our time playing video games.
Yeah, and even now, the socials takes Shabbat time. In fact, I wanted to ask at the end of the podcast, I'm just going to do it now, if there are people in chat who have any experience with editing shorts. I have no time to do it. I'm willing to pay. I don't have a big budget or anything like that, but if there is anyone who is into cutting shorts for the podcast, for this one especially, speak to me, DM me, whatever, because I'm kind of willing to pay, because I do not have the time to go to edit all the shorts. It's impossible. I don't have the time. They'll end up coming out in 5 months' time, which is better late than never, but I'd really like to get them done now. So if there's anyone, tell me. But for MESA, yeah, you really need a creative team. Is there any link we can post where people can literally just go there and start to read and sign up?
So yes, esports.org.mt for all of our stuff, and for applications, I'll post a link in the chat.
Post it.
About how it works and all that good stuff. 1 second. By the way, on our website, there's also a full history of the national team, of every game that the national team has ever played, photos of all the events that they went to. It's on our website. Yes, I know there are parts of the website that that are not great and need updating, but it is what it is.
You need a creative team, that's it.
Yep. Yeah. We need more resources, more people, everything. But
invent more positions. One marketing and stuff like that, literally for socials, and one for community organizers, and assign people you'll find for sure in the casino, and you'll get things going. Okay, so you have the link in chat. Perfect. Is that? have a look at it, guys. Give it all the support you can, and even if you're not interested in anything whatsoever that MESA is offering, it's 25 a year, which eventually down the line will help you, because like we've discussed before, these jobs being created aren't just esports, they're also game related. If you all play games, if you all like these types of jobs, if you all want gaming events to get bigger, if you like PlayCon, if you like the cosplay, if you want these things to get even bigger, you help MESA out, there's a big chance you have a bigger voice to speak to whoever is organizing to get your voice heard. So even if you're not interested in it, it's 25 per year, guys. It's a couple of euros a month. So literally, it's like just over €2 a month. So support it and join it, guys. It's helping your country's like gaming future. That was a good one, Mick. Thank you for joining, and thank you for like being open and answering without dodging questions or beating around the bush. I thank you for not being the typical like politician who's fucking ninja at dodging.
I'm not a politician. My own interest is esports, so
Yeah, I know, but when you have certain positions, it's hard to answer certain questions. Even for me, I know I put myself in the crosshairs quite a lot. I know a lot of people don't like me at all for asking certain questions, but they're not just my questions. These are, I'm sick and tired of every time I meet this community, these questions are just brought up, and no one has answers for them. And even worse, when you don't have answers for them, people speculate. So people won't say things like, maybe this or that is happening. People will say this is corruption straight away, obviously. People won't say, these jobs, they do nothing for us. Now at least we know, okay, it involves different types of jobs, not just esports, so it justifies it a bit more. It's a bit more helpful for the local gaming community also. So it's much better when these things are said, when things are kept in the dark, because Malta's small, the community is really small. Everyone talks. I've met 17-year-olds who spoke about certain things in politics. So I'm like, I never even heard of these things. I find out they're right, and I'm like, how the hell does a 17-year-old know about these things? So people talk a lot. So I'm happy I asked the questions also, but I'm even happier you actually gave us nice, good answers. This doesn't need to stop here, guys. If you have any other questions, if you happen to be seeing the VOD not live and you're seeing this right now on YouTube and you get other questions, you can either message me or message Kazin, or if we have enough questions, maybe we'll do another one down the line with Mick and ask him more. I would like to do another podcast with you down the line. Like you tell me, let's do one in 8 months time, because these are the plans of MESA, and we'll see from now to, for example, 6-8 months time if anything would have changed, or if anything went better, or if we're both dead. So again, thanks to you, and thanks for all the chat. We had a nice busy chat on both days.
yeah.
Then, if you want to add anything, now is the chance, because you don't have to go anyway also. It's almost 6:30.
No, just thank you guys for joining. Thank you for supporting, and thank you for listening. And even just liking social media posts relating to things that people do locally for our communities. Not just, I'm not saying the esports association, but everything surrounding the esports. Like even just a small like goes a long way, guys. That's it.
Perfect. Thank you very much, guys. Thanks, Michele. Hope to speak to you soon with a lot of new, nice, updated, happy statements.
Let's hope so.
Ciao, guys. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
To the
Bye.
next one.